Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson. I got my good buddy from the left coast, and we are having our 2.0 interview. I literally talked to him in July of 20 when we were on full lockdown, and my good friend Kyle here, he was helping people like myself really kind of level up through those times because it was a time of uncertainty, and Kyle was there for people. Hell, Kyle was there for me. I had questions for him. He helped me out. We're both in kind of the realm of mindset conditioning coaches. And I just love that I get to pick his brain again, almost 3 years later, because we both evolved through the pandemic. We're meeting people face to face, and it's just fun. I immensely respect Kyle. And Kyle is somebody who helps small business owners in the home services and trade markets get the most out of their time, talent, and team. He's an ICF certified coach, behavioral analyst, and blue shirt leadership framework creator. Kyle helps his clients. I love it that he uses the acronym of BLUE. B, self-aware leaders. L, lead with accountability. U, use a growth mindset. And E, empower others. And he works to have people do that every day. He's a business coach, a mindset development coach, and he has an awesome Facebook group, which I'll put in the show notes. Please join. It's the Blue Shirt Business Community. Don't go there yet because Kyle's going to drop some serious knowledge nuggets on you. And Kyle, thank you so much for coming back on. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. But I'm not even going to ask you your favorite color because I did that last time. But Kyle, what's a superpower or talent that you have that no one knows about?
Thanks for having me on the show, Fergie. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Superpower talent that I have, nobody knows. I'm developing listening. I'm developing that superpower talent. It's not something as a talker. It's not something that I have naturally, but it's one of those things that I'm realizing that I'm learning. And the one that's natural to me is I have this intuition about people and the questions I need to ask them that often is a really good insight for them. I had one of those yesterday that was super powerful for the coachee. So I would say intuition is the one.
That's awesome. We're going to dig into that a little bit, but to be able to listen fully with what I call your neck, like really lean into people and still be able to come up with a question. A lot of people want to be coaches, right? And more power to them. But a lot of them, they're thinking of the next question without listening to it. So intuition is fantastic, man. So again, brother, thank you for coming on. And, I kind of want to get into something we didn't get into in our last interview. But you've had 3 near-death experiences, right? Can we start a little bit and launch off with maybe one of them that really might kind of blow our minds?
Yeah, so I used to be a surfer. Now that I don't live in California, I can't surf, unfortunately. I love surfing, and I don't know if you surf in Florida or not, but I absolutely love it.
I try, and I look really funny. I get kicked off the waves. But yeah, go ahead.
So my friends and I decided to go out to Morro Bay. So people that are familiar with the West Coast might know that name. And it was a 14-foot day, which is pretty dang big. That's double overhead, right? So it's a very big day, especially for somebody that's like 6-foot days. That's my preference. And so my buddies and I, let's go surf. And I'm terrified to even drive out there. So I'm get to the parking lot. Everybody's getting into their wetsuits, and I'm watching these waves, and these guys, they look kind of small on the wave because it's so big, and just getting out to the waves is scary. So got in the water, started paddling out, and you have to do this duck dive thing. For people who don't know what duck diving is, you basically push your board underneath the wave and dive underneath it so that it doesn't push you back. So you could just go underneath the force of the wave. So I did that a few times. And then I came up one time, and the next set of waves was much bigger and unexpected. And so one crashed right on top of me and pushed me under and held me under for probably 10 seconds or so. And 10 seconds feels like forever because you don't know when you get to come up. And I remember just frantically panicking about it because I was already really tired from trying to paddle out. And then I didn't know where I was. And you're like a sock in a washer machine. So you just get tumbled around like crazy. And then I finally popped up. And as soon as I pop up, there's another wave within a second of crashing. And so I'm like, oh no. So I go back under again. And this time, I don't know how long it was, but at least another 10 seconds or so. I'm already exhausted, out of breath. And then I'm panicking, about ready to suck in the water. And then I pop up out of the water and I look, and there's a wave basically crashing on my face again, pushes me under, tumbles me around like a sock again. Now I'm absolutely panicked. I'm thinking I'm going to drown because I'm out of air, like getting dizzy, exhausted, don't know where the board is, don't know where up is or down is or anything. And I pop up again and I can't even hardly breathe. And here comes another wave. And in that moment, this is 4 because it's a set coming in. And when the 14-foot wave comes in, or maybe it was taller, I'm not sure. But anyway, I look at it and I've got like a half a second to think. And I go, Jesus, help me. And I say that. And then all of a sudden I hear this voice. This is this intuition stuff I was talking about earlier that says, turn around. And I go, okay. And so I turn around, and instead of trying to fight the wave, fight it and go underneath it and fight it going forward, I let it push me. Just let it push me forward. And it was rough still because I'm underwater, but I was going forward and the water was getting easier to deal with. And so I was underwater for maybe 5 seconds, and I pop up and another wave hits me from behind, and that's no big deal. And then I end up on the shore eventually. And I think for me, the metaphor is sometimes we're fighting against things that we shouldn't be fighting, and we need to let them just push us to this next place in our lives. But that was terrifying. I thought I was going to die.
Right. You know, it's crazy, not to that extent, but, you know, I had to go through water integrity in the military.
Oh, right.
Which is drown proofing, you know, and you hold your breath for a while, but it's kind of controlled, right? You tie your hands, we're doing bobs, and you start to feel, dude, when you're in there, and I boogie board, right? I'm that big dude out there just riding a boogie board because we don't even have 3-footers really where I live here. Every once in a while, you get a 6-foot day or whatnot. But I mean, it's something with that, were you coaching at that time?
No, I was in college, I think.
Living in that house with a bunch of dudes. I remember that, right?
Yep, exactly.
I love it. So do you think you revert back to that experience a lot when you're coaching to help clients kind of go with the flow, for lack of a better term, like you said, instead of really push against the grain?
You know, I've told that story to a couple networking contexts and a couple workshops just to get people to one. There's two really powerful things about it. One, I survived because I was supposed to. I was supposed to live, and I have more to give, right? Number two, there is the metaphor of, yes, there are things that we do want to fight against and fight through, but there is a point when someone or something tells us, hey, it's probably time for you to stop when you're pushing up against the wrong thing. Go ahead and go with the flow right now. You need to go with the river instead of trying to swim upstream. So it's been very useful for me. And ultimately, when I review that memory, it's really encouraging. It reminds me that, hey, man, you're supposed to be doing what you're doing, and do keep fighting because you're not drowning, and it's worth it because you survived that. And there's more to come. There's more to give.
How long did it take you to get back on a board, or did you go like right back out?
Probably the next week. I just didn't go on a big
right.
Big
Have you been on a big wave day again, Kyle?
I did, and then I almost drowned again.
Oh, beautiful. Good times. Good times. Like, I got to ask you then, who's your favorite maybe pro surfer?
I pay attention to Kelly Slater and Hamilton from, kind of the older dudes.
Laird, baby. Yeah, Laird is who I was going to bring up. Laird, I immensely respect. I got to meet him a couple times at speaking engagements and whatnot. And like that wave he rode at Chupu is like, people see that and they don't realize how shallow it is underneath there, that if that wave landed on him, he's dead. It's crazy. What a monster heaviest wave in the world, pretty much. That's beautiful, man. Slater just lives, I don't know, an hour and a half north of me here in Cocoa Beach. Cool. Well, he visits. But no, that's fantastic. So tell me a little bit about Blue Shirt, man, and like what really opened that up, because I know you made a transition, which is, I think, is a blessing for you. Okay. Because you're always wearing blue shirts, or you're a handsome dude. It's in your color wheel, right? But what's going on with Blue Shirt, and what do you have to offer?
Yeah, so Blue Shirt came out of this necessity to change. I had a situation where this other company said, hey, you can't use your old name anymore because we use it. And we fought about it for about 9 months. And they said, well, we could sue you and we could fight that way if you want. And I said, no, I can pivot. I'll go ahead and pivot. But that pivot forced me to think differently about who my clients are. And I had to go, okay, who am I going to niche to? Now I can work with a lot of different people, not just anyone, because not anyone is ready to be coached. There's definitely, you got to be ready. Yes. So I went, who do I really like? Who do I really enjoy coaching? And my history, my background is I grew up on an orange farm. So my dad started working the orange farm in '83, opened the business. And then when I was 7th through 12th grade, I worked with him, did the orange farming stuff with him. And I have that blue collar blood in me. right? And then I worked a men's mentoring program where the guys, a lot of them went into the trades and the home services businesses. And so I got to love on and serve those guys in there. And then I ran a pet resort for multiple years. And so I've got that underneath my belt when it comes to the dogs, but also the outdoor work and all that kind of stuff. So it all came together in my mind, and I go, what if my target, what if the people that I really want to serve are blue collar business owners? And so I went, what's the name that works for that? And I couldn't come up with anything. And blue collar, blah, 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 anything tied to blue collar.
You know, you're going to get hit on that too.
Yeah, it's taken. Yeah. So I thought, well, let's do blue shirt. And it clicked. And then actually just a couple nights ago, I was laying in bed and I'm like, what can I turn blue into? Because I still had that other intellectual property that I can't use. I can't use the name of it anymore. And so I'm like, well, how do I turn that into an acronym with blue? And so you read it off, you know, and so it all came together. And in fact, I'm using that acronym to develop this criteria of what I really want my kids and my clients to walk away with.
That's beautiful.
Right. There's chunks of it. And so I'm really excited about the new brand.
Dude, I think, and again, from one coach to another, I think it's beautiful for you, bro. I was raised blue collar as well, you know, and, you know, I do coach some blue collar, you know, people just because I can relate really well with them as well. But it just seems to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that whole ordeal that happened from before, you know, it's almost like that 50,000 foot wave crashing down on you, if you know what I mean. And you just went with the flow and did what you did. Am I kind of correct in that?
Yeah. I mean, peace is really important to me.
Thank you. Yeah.
And if you don't, I could have fought and been pissed off. It was funny because when they pushed against me, I was fighting it because I thought it was good to fight. And it was good to fight. I learned a lot about myself and about how that works.
Yeah.
But then I got to this point probably 6 weeks into fighting it, because there's the emails exchanged and I was talking to my lawyer about it. And 6 weeks in, I came to this place of peace. And I'm like, you know what? They have a leg to stand on to a certain degree.
Sure.
And I can pivot. I'll be fine. And I came to peace about it. But I would tell people the story of what happened and they'd be all pissed off for me. And they try to drum up my anger. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting to push back against them and be like, no, I'm okay. I'm not mad at them. I'm at peace about this. I've moved on. You can let it go. Bro. And some people would bring it up again. And I'm like, no. I've done my mind work on this. I'm okay. Let's move forward. And it was weird to have people do that when I was trying to get them to, no. Help me move forward. Don't make me focus on what the past was.
Love that.
That's a bigger picture thing too, right? It's not just about this situation.
Yeah, grabbing that wave, man, and going where it was taking you, and in coming out, I feel, my humble opinion, so much better. To be honest with you, I think it's beautiful. So when you're working with clients, the blue collar clients, Kyle, is there a process that you use to help them really kind of locate and recognize their blind spots?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, one of the first things that I have to do with my clients is I help them, what I say is build a leadership house. So if you think about that leadership house, there's 4 components to it, which is the blue components that you read at the beginning. But basically, the first one is a foundation of self-awareness. So they need to be a self-aware leader. If you don't have self-awareness in your leadership, or you don't put that shirt on, right? I talk about blue shirt, but you're putting on the blue shirt of self-awareness, accountability, growth, and empowerment, right? So self-awareness is that foundation. So I help them get there. And then accountability is the nails that holds that leadership house together. If you put those 2 things together, the self-awareness and accountability, what happens? Growth. You're going to get growth. If you're accountable to the things you say you're going to do, and you're aware of the impact that you're making and who you are, you're going to grow. Yeah. And growth is the walls and the roof of your leadership house. And then what happens after you grow? Well, you got to empower people. You need to empower them. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate. And that leadership roof or leadership lid you're going to be hitting that ceiling, right? So once you empower, now what happens? Well, you go back around to self-awareness. You become newly aware of who you are as a leader, so on and so forth. So it becomes this repeated cycle. And that's how I walk people through. And it's unique for each person because it's a framework versus a program. But that's how it works.
And that's what I love about that is you don't cookie cutter.
Right.
people, and that people like you and I are, when we reach the top of a mountain, it's the bottom of another one.
Yep.
And the only way that we can get there is to, really empower others, while we're continuing our climb. I absolutely freaking love that. So when you're working with, maybe we're still kind of in a discovery period with a potential client, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
I think one of the things that clients, I would rather they tell me the thing that gets them motivated, for us to dive into that. What is it that motivates them? What is it that gets them to continue moving forward? Because as we're working on these things, it gets tough. You start to realize things about yourself. You step up in your actions. You're going to take some big actions, and that's kind of scary. It's like, how do I help you? How do I help motivate you? Is one of the things that I'm discovering. It's because some people are motivated different than others. Some people, I'm like, okay, I want you to do this 12-week plan and track these things, have your lead and lag measures. And then other people are much more emotional, and doing the details doesn't work for them. And
Right.
so I try to get that question answered by doing personality assessments and diving into it. But motivation wanes and waxes over time.
Sure.
And so for me, I'd love them to share that with me, and I can ask them the questions, but that's really the key is how are you going to be motivated today? What is it that's going to keep you motivated today?
That way you can kind of go back and do resets at times, or you call them pivots. I call them shifts. You can just call it shivot. There you go. Shifts and pivots, right? That's fantastic. So what do you believe that your strengths are as a coach?
Like I said at the beginning, I would say listening is the thing that I'm getting better and better at. I had a coaching call with somebody yesterday, and he wanted to. I can talk about him. I won't say his name, but I'm okay to talk about him. He lets me do that. Sure. He wanted to figure out how to grow as a person better, to become a better person, to up level himself, and he likes to set really lofty goals. Okay. And so we were talking for a while, and the whole time, it was like I was in this zone. There was nothing outside. I have a big window right by my office right here. But there was nothing else. It was this tunnel of me just listening to him. And I have these copious notes about what he was saying. And every time I'd ask a question, it was off of his words. And then he would keep going. Then I asked another question. But there was this moment of intuition, right? So the combination of deep listening and intuition came together for me. And he wanted to be able to naturally, spontaneously pray, to just be someone that naturally does that. It's not something that's hard for him. Or in other words, another way to put it would be to naturally just trust his intuition, naturally just go for it. And that's something that he's not good at because he's such a thinker. He's always strategizing and has like lists and details and plans. And so for him to just naturally go with the flow, to get back to the water thing, is very, very hard. And that's the big goal for him. And he needs to abide to that flow. And that was the insight that he got. And how did we get there? Great listening. Yeah. And then I just trusted my instinct of combining what he was saying into an idea. And I said, hey, this is what I kind of heard. What do you think about that? I didn't say, this is what I heard. This is what you should do. Yeah. I said, we're coaches. Yeah. I heard, what do you think about it? And then he ran with it.
Well, I absolutely love that you threw a little 1 Thessalonians 5 out at him too, with praying without ceasing. It's beautiful. I'm a big believer, that everybody kind of knows what they want. They just don't know how to talk themselves into it. Yes. The only way that I can, as a coach, do that is listen with my neck. Especially if I can see them, I can lean in and really listen with all aspects. With my eyes. But it still all comes back to listening. And then the intuition kicks in. I've absolutely loved that. So, Kyle, what do you think, if you don't mind sharing, a weakness that you have that you're really working on as a coach?
Yeah, fear that I'm not actually doing a good job. Fear that I'm not making the difference that I need to make. I have a mentor that I meet with every other Tuesday. And I came in there kind of like, woe is me. We were having coffee. And I came in kind of head down, the wrong body language, right? Head down, just in this, my voice is coming down to reflect it, and I got out of my car and before we get in the coffee shop, and I had this thought run through my head. I had this opportunity to present to this big construction firm in town, multi-million-dollar firm. And the business owner asked me to do a presentation. And I'm like, I'm not, I can't do that. What do I have to offer them? It's going to be a bunch of executives and all these people. What am I, totally tearing myself apart. And I go and I meet with him and he's like, stop it.
Yeah.
It's like, stop it. And then he told me something that made me cry. He's like, hey, you are making a difference. You've made a difference in my life, and you have made a big difference. And he explained some of the things that I'm doing. Right. And there was 2 categories in my life that I had blocked out of things that I was doing that are making a big impact on people's lives. And I'm like, wow, that's the impact of not taking control of your mindset. My self-awareness, I didn't put on that blue shirt of those 4 things that morning. And so my self-awareness was terrible. And so my mindset, what was it? It wasn't a growth mindset. But I came to somebody on my advisory board, being that mentor, and he empowered me again, right? He embodies that blue shirt mindset, and he helped empower me by going, no, dude, stop it. Let me tell you what you've accomplished. Now get over yourself,
right,
and move on. And I did, and I was in a different space after that.
Right. I call it kind of taking it to neutral with my clients. Really getting them, because the past, obviously, so many people have a foot in the future, a foot in the past, and they pee all over the present, right? So it's like I try to I liken it to I take coaching clients. If they're live here in South Florida, I bring them in my car. Right. And I'm like, listen, that rearview mirror right there is small for a reason. Right. The dashboard is huge and scary, or the window. But you and I are going to sit here. Right. And we're going to put our seatbelt on. We're going to hit the ignition. We're going to drive, and we're going to inch by inch. It's a cinch. Right. I'm going to be helping your GPS in doing that, and then remind them exactly. I love that mentor was in your life, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I go through that imposter syndrome a lot. With stuff. I'm speaking on a stage tonight in front of 2,500 people, and I guarantee I'm like, Berta, I need to talk to you a half hour before. And she'll remind me, and that's beautiful that you have, Berta's my coach. That's beautiful that you have that person, those people, and that vibe in your tribe, in your life. That's beautiful, man. So, Kyle, I've asked you this before, but I want us to get back in that DeLorean with Marty McFly, okay? Let's go back 3 years ago to COVID time, right? What was going through your mind that really helped coach you? And what did you say to Kyle then? This really pulled him through that crazy pandemic.
Yeah, so COVID was interesting for me because when COVID hit me March 17th is what happened. Not the disease, but the disease on my business. And I had my highest paying client. It was a construction business. They said, hey, we got to stop. And I'd been working with them for over a year at that time. And I went, okay. And then another one called me, and another one emailed me, and another one emailed me, and another one emailed me. By the time I got done with that first 2 weeks of COVID really hitting my business, I had lost 75% of my business. And I was having my best year to date at that time, and things were going super well. I was building up my network really incredibly well. And then it just completely crashed my business. So I spent the next months, March through June, basically in this woe is me state. Like, oh man, what am I going to do? Maybe because my wife at the time was a nurse, and she's now working with me, but she could, earn the money for the family, would be okay. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back to working for somebody else, blah, blah, blah. I get into this state. Then in June, I'm reading this book. I don't remember the title of it, but I'm reading this book, and he points out some stats about the coaching industry and the consulting industry. And he points out that the coaching industry in 2019 was a $2 billion industry. I'm sure it's bigger now. And then the consulting industry is a $3 trillion industry. And I go, I think I can get a little slice of that and be okay.
Right.
And that stat, for whatever reason, flipped my switch in my brain. And I went, no. I need to trust my own advice.
There you go.
And move forward with the advice that I've given other people and the coaching I've given other people. Right. And I coached myself up and out of this slump, and then turned my business around, and it grew 31% from the previous year.
That's awesome.
So it worked out in the year, even though COVID screwed over my business at the beginning.
Sure. Yeah. And it's awesome that you persevered through that and saw the opportunity. And the biggest thing that I'm hearing, I've written down like 4 times my notes, is intuition. Like your intuition, and you and I are men of God. Okay. So it's a lot through prayer and what's placed and planted in us and whatnot. I'm so happy, and the world is so happy, brother, that you did that as well. So then I think I might have asked you before, but let's ask you again. Like, how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and death date. Hopefully it's years down the road, bro. But how do you want your dash remembered?
Yeah, he loved well. He loved his kids and his wife deeply. He influenced people generations down the line. And I'll tell you what that means in a minute after I'm done here. And then he loved Jesus most of all. Yeah. Right. So those 3 things are what it's rooted all in the idea of love, but love my wife, my kids, influence people deeply for generations, and love Jesus first.
Love it. That's beautiful, because, you know, like what I'm hearing is like what you're planning out there is really evergreen stuff that's just going to be, you know, passed on. I have a feeling that you kind of mentor people as well, because I believe that, you know, the more you mentor, the more immortal you become, right? Like, not that immortal from look at me, but like immortal, be like, hey man, I passed that down. You just feel so much better about that. It's beautiful. So
let me tell you the mentor part. So when I worked at the men's mentoring program, it's called Alpha Academy. It still exists, and they serve 18 and 25-year-olds that are off track in life. Sure. And I got to do that for 9 years in various roles. When I moved up here, I said, hey, if I'm going to move up here, I want to have as big of an impact or more in the Pacific Northwest as I did in California. And that's starting to happen. It may have already happened, but it's happening. Sure. And I recently had another vision where I got the message, you need to open a men's mentoring program in the Pacific Northwest. And so that all coincided with this blue shirt thing. And I made the connection that I need to build a community of business owners that I can serve deeply and help them every week with topics and conversations, et cetera, and networking. But together, we're going to help each other, yes, but ultimately I want some of those people, because I know not all of them are going to engage in it, but I want some of them to help these men in this program that I'm going to start. Right. And they're going to mentor those guys. And then, since a lot of these business owners I'm working with are blue collar, these dudes in the program may end up working for the guys that are part of the community. And then what does that look like? Well, they've known them and been mentoring them. So there's loyalty and trust. Yeah. So then now that employee is going to do a really good job in that business because of the respect and trust they have for the owner. And then what does that do? That changes that young man's family, and very likely the generations of that family, because now he's got a good trade under his belt. Yeah. He's good at that. He may open his own business as a result of the mentoring. And that's generational change. So for me, that's the legacy. That's the dash part of what I'm doing. So Blue has yes, I want to serve my current clients, but it has this bigger projection of, let's start this nonprofit that benefits a lot of people and for generations to come. So
that's beautiful, bro. That's beautiful. I'm glad that you're doing that. Make sure I get everything on that so I can see where I can help on that as well.
Yeah.
So what is your definition, or what's Kyle's definition of, you know, a life well lived?
I think a lot of what I said with loving my wife and my kids and Jesus and leaving a legacy that matters. I think fun is a big piece of the picture that's easy to forget for me, and maybe other people too. As entrepreneurs,
absolutely,
or business owners, man. We forget that you need to have fun. But that fun, an example of that would be we had the sun in the Pacific Northwest this weekend, so that was nice. And at about noon, we got back from church, and we ate lunch, and then about 1, we all went outside, and my wife was doing some yard stuff, and I was shooting hoops I have 3 daughters, so I was shooting hoops with my oldest, and then the 2 others joined in, and then next thing you know, it's 4:00 and we're wrestling on the grass and playing fake WWF wrestling.
Right.
And that's the fun, to see the smiles on their faces and the itchy backs from wrestling around on the ground.
Yeah.
That's the type of impact I want to have, right?
Yeah.
Those moments of fun, those moments of impact, that when my children look back when they're in high school and they go, Dad, do you remember when we were shooting hoops together and we were wrestling on the grass? And I'm like, yes, I remember that, because those are the things that really ultimately make the big difference, that connection. So I'd say that's the part of the dash.
And I love that there's like so many people want balance. I think balance is junk, right? I think balance is zero. And no offense to the coaches and consultants that believe in balance, but I really believe in harmony, right? Versus balance, where, like you just mentioned a few of the pillars. The pillars that I run with are kind of like God, spiritual, personal growth, family, community, work, money, living environment, and like health and recreation. Those are the 8 pillars. And I liken them to jazz band, like a jazz band. And drums might be, God, in spiritual. Personal growth might be the guitar, horns might be work, and on and on. You don't have to be Beethoven or John Bonham or anything playing the instruments. But as long as you give effort to them, the sound will sound more harmonious versus leaving one of those out. And I love that one of the memories is that family, that's ingrained, and like you said, it literally physiologically wires into your daughter's brains.
Yes.
Those things as they're maturing. That's just awesome, Kyle. Really appreciate you sharing that, man.
It's funny you mentioned those categories because I'm looking on my second screen here and I always have up my dashboard on the goals I'm trying to, not always, most of the time I have my dashboard up and then also my to-do list. And I break my to-do list down into categories: relational, physical, work, spiritual, emotional, education, similar to your situation. I'm always making sure, because basically everything that I need to get done is going to plug into one of those categories.
Right.
And as long as they're top of mind, I'm going to keep that balanced out. And I can see my numbers. I can see that, like physical doesn't have that many in it, but that's okay because things that I'm doing are really concentrated in physical. Right. But relational has a lot, relational has a lot. And that helps me to know, how am I doing in these arenas when it comes to my focus? So
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It allows you to shift it in times when to move over to the one that needs more attention. That's just beautiful. And squad, we're going to take my good friend Kyle Gillette here through our Loving Up lightning round. Again, this is as soon as we get back from thanking our sponsors and affiliates. Time to Shine Today Podcast Varsity Squad. We are back. And Kyle, I've taken you through this before, but we're going to go through again. And some of the questions are different. I lined them up for you. And remember, you and I could talk an hour on each one of these, but you got 5 seconds with no explanation. You ready to rock?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Kyle, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Listen to your own advice.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Weekly Saturday reviews.
Yes. So you see me kind of walking down the street. I'm a little bit in my doldrums. Other than your own book, what book might you hand Fergie?
Have them read the book of Revelation.
Beautiful. Love it. What's your most commonly used emoji when you text?
Simple. No, face palm.
Face palm. Love it. Nicknames growing up?
KW.
All right.
Behemoth for my thighs. Let's not get confused here. And drumsticks also for my thighs. I have very big thighs.
Love it. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Not Monopoly. That one pisses me off. I'd say checkers. I'm a little bit simpler than chess.
Me too, brother. Right there. Go-to ice cream flavor?
Vanilla.
Me too. Man, like brothers from different mothers here. Awesome. There's a sandwich named the K-Dub Behemoth. Build that sandwich for me.
So it's going to be a big roll, sourdough roll with avocado on it. And we got some spicy ham and salami and, 3 different meats. We got cold onions, cold tomatoes, cold lettuce, and some mustard and a little bit of mayonnaise smashed together.
We got to put a little man candy on it, like a little bacon.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
my bad.
Kyle, what is give me a favorite charity and organization you like to give your time and or money to?
Yeah, I give to an organization called Engedi Refuge, and it's an organization that helps women that have been trafficked get their lives back together.
Thank you, brother. That's amazing. Yep. And last question, we can elaborate a little bit on this one again, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
70s. No. Right. It's that combination of 60s, 70s, that like but classic rock time.
Dude, I love that because you can understand the words, right? And 2, they all have stories.
Yes.
Two of them, like whether it's the Eagles, every single song the Eagles sing is a story. Zeppelin, Aerosmith, they're all stories. And or you get into the folky stuff like Croce and Lightfoot and those guys, John Denver even, you can actually hear this stuff. I love it. I love it. And people I got asked the other day, what they say, the Beatles or the Stones? That's what they said. They kind of gave it to me in a lightning round. I'm like, Four Seasons, Frankie Valli, right? They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude, Frankie Valli and Four Seasons had a #1 hit before the Beatles, during the Beatles, and after the Beatles. And I just went and saw Frankie Valli like a couple of weeks ago at 80-something years old singing. So
nice.
It's funny. I love stories that I can hear, and they're American. So, but no, hey, Kyle, how can we find you, brother?
Yeah, you can go to blueshirtcoaching.com. And then if you want to interact with me, real simply, go to Facebook and type in Blue Shirt Business Community, and you'll find my business community there. And we're active, hanging out every Thursday. We meet and network together. So
tell us a little bit about that community, man. What goes on in there?
Yeah, so it's a bunch of business owners, and the intention and the purpose and the goal of the community is to help one another, to collaborate, to learn insights from one another. We talk about a topic every week. So this week we're talking about business values and personal values and the importance of those. Mm-hmm. Every Thursday we meet and have a networking meeting for an hour, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. We hang out, we talk about what's going on in our businesses. We speak about the topic, mastermind on it as well, support one another. And then Fridays, I share the next topic and get you thinking about it. So you're thinking about the next topic for the next week, and we start all over again and jump in.
How is it set up? Is it Zoom set up, or what's going on with the setup for being able to jump in? Or you just hold it right on Facebook?
No, it's Zoom. It's Zoom, and we just connect that way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And is there replays at all, or is it just live and that's it?
I haven't done replays yet.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure I push this. I'm going to show up at a couple of them because they're on Thursdays at 11:30 Pacific, right?
Correct.
So that's actually perfect because Thursdays I do my interviews, and if I'm not traveling, I can pop in on those. Beautiful. Yep. So, Kyle, do me one last solid and leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Yeah, give people the space to think. Be quiet. Don't always give answers. Don't interrupt. Give people the space to think, which sometimes equals being quiet for a whole minute while the other person's thinking.
Wow. And just what you'll get out of that in return from them, the gratitude that they'll have to really be heard. It's beautiful. And squad, again, I'm so glad I did a 2.0 with my good buddy Kyle here, who's, shared some, scary moments, some trials, tribulations that he's went through that I didn't even know off the mic. I mean, I pray for this guy every day. He reminds us that listening is powerful. And with that listening is going to come the intuition for you to be able to ask the correct questions. He's really there to help push you to your next place and kind of guide you at the same time. Kind of go with that flow, kind of when he was stuck under 4 times on a 14-foot day. That's 14-foot waves, man. I'm 6'1". That's 1.5 times higher than I am, and for him to survive that, really take the lessons he learned out of that, is absolutely amazing. And he reminded us, build a leadership foundation of self-awareness and accountability. The foundation of self-awareness and accountability is the nails, and that equals the walls and the roof. When then you empower people, don't stagnate. I just butchered that. Just go back and listen to what how Kyle put it out there. He believes in frameworks and not programs. No cookie cutter stuff here with Kyle. So if you're being coached by Kyle, he's going to dig in and build a framework, a protocol for you. Again, he believes in the deep listening. He listens with his neck. Tell your coach, if you're starting to work with him, hopefully it's Kyle, that what really motivates you, because that's going to the good coach is going to dig down to that motivation and that why. So when you get in those stagnant positions or times, he's going to remind you about that, like his coach did or his mentor did in the restaurant that day. Remember who you are, Kyle. It's great to have those people. He's somebody that I really believe is planting trees he's never going to sit in the shade of, man, because he's going to be remembered as someone that loved Jesus, loved his family deeply, influenced people greatly to level up their lives, and lastly, give people the space to think. Don't interrupt them. Excuse me. They will appreciate that above all. And that's what Kyle does, is he levels up his health. He levels up his wealth. He's humble, yet he's hungry. He's earned another varsity letter here at Time to Shine today. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. Absolutely love your guts.
Thanks, Fergie. Appreciate it.
We'll chat soon.